All right, we are here and we are back. It is MinerTalk, and it is a nightmare of a show. Oh man, we're gonna get spooky here tonight, and we're gonna be out here late here on this Saturday evening. We'll pour into Sunday morning. Along with Alberto Reta, Chris Kolnick from Inspo Lens, I'm Adrian Broaddus. Utep Zay Calindo will be joining us soon enough. Sal Montes finishing up the post-game show with 95.5 KLAQ. Oh man, this is an absolute travesty. Utep ends up losing this one in overtime, 27-24 to Southern Utah out of the FCS ranks. And this was just an absolute nightmare of a game for Utep. Thanks to Chris, some guy Chris on social media, Twitter and X, he was noting that 14 penalties for over 130 yards is the most that a UTEP football team had in a single game since 2005. This one was just nightmarish, guys. And I don't even know where to begin. I think the Miner fan base is rocked. They are stumped on this one right here because of all the hype, all the excitement that came in for UTEP football all offseason long. This is so tough. This is, Alberto, I think this one stings UTEP Miner fans in a big way because not only did they come to the Sun Bowl expecting a victory tonight, some expected a lopsided victory tonight in favor of the Miners. There was the whole thing that happened yesterday with head coach Delane Fitzgerald of Southern Utah, trashing the program, trashing the city of El Paso, knocking Broaddus, our sister city, and UTEP. Came out strong in the second half, laid an absolute egg, ended up losing this one right here. Instant reactions from you after this loss.
Well, just like everyone else in the city, obviously we're extremely disappointed with the team's, performance. A lot of people in the city were predicting a large margin of victory. Obviously, I wasn't one of those people. I knew that this was going to be a tight matchup. And so I know that those people walk away extremely disappointed, but I know that another reason that people feel extremely disappointed after this matchup is because it kind of felt like the Miners kind of had to defend the city there, right? It was like they were the ones who took the field for us after Delaney, the head coach for the southeastern Utah. Forgive me.
I got you. $41,609 fans were out there out of the Sun Bowl. Disappointing ending. You want to talk about it with us, 915-505-6009. We'll just open up the phone lines right away. 600 ESPN El Paso on Twitter and X, which is blowing up right now. There's so many people who want to chime in on Twitter and X. We are live thanks to Inspo Lens on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitter and X as well. There's so much going on right now as far as UTEP football. And yeah, there's just a lot to say for this one right here. So if you want to give us a call, 915-505-6009. I think a lot of people are caught up right now, either in the traffic, caught up just right after the game, still making their way to their car. And I think this one is going to be just a really lengthy MinerTalk and one that people will feel very passionate about. Either way, let's go to Twitter and X, 600 ESPN El Paso and Twitter and X with the hashtag MinerTalk right now. By the way, MinerTalk is brought to you by Jack in the Box. Hey, we're going to be up until probably 3 in the morning, maybe even 4 in the morning if this show gets really crazy. We're going to be nominating plays for the Jack of all plays. People can nominate their favorite play from the game. You can pick a winner. And thanks to Jack in the Box for sponsoring us here on MinerTalk with 15 locations. They're open 24/7 in El Paso and Las Cruces. Jack in the Box is the perfect spot before and after every game. Also, big shout out to the Oscar Arieta Agency. Check out riseup915.com. Tag Oscar Arieta Agency at 600 ESPN El Paso. And make sure you tune in to 600 ESPN El Paso online for some other giveaways here in the future with the Oscar Arieta Agency. The other two things that are going to really infuriate fans, let's take it back because the Miners were down before the end of regulation. They were down 24-17 with just over 2 minutes to go. It was Southern Utah who was able to kick a field goal and extend their lead a little bit more, force Utep to at least tie the game. They were up 24-17, 2:40 left in the fourth quarter. Utep ends up marching down the field. It was Skylar Locklear, quarterback, who hit wide receiver Jaden Smith for a 41-yard gain all the way down to the Southern Utah 29-yard line. Utep takes a timeout, 4th and game coming up. Skylar Locklear gets the first down on a 4th down play. Utep went all the way down to the 10, 1st and goal situation. But then penalties hurt the Miners. They got called for holding, and they had a horse collar penalty on the opposing team. The Thunderbirds had a horse collar tackle that ends up saving the game. If that holding penalty would have stood, that 10-second runoff would have hit, and UTEP loses the game right there. Southern Utah wins 24-17. But then they repeat 3rd down, only 9 seconds left, and UTEP hits the Philly special. It was actually Skylar Locklear who hit Jaden Smith, and then Jaden Smith gives it back to Skylar Locklear on the wide receiver pass for a touchdown. It was a huge play. Sent the game to overtime. Free football out of the Sun Bowl, as Sicko's committee said. And then UTEP, defensively, they started stepping up. They had a little bit of momentum on this side. K.D. Johnson had a big sack on the night, and it was the 2nd sack at that point. Southern Utah converted on a huge 3rd down play. Then they got penalized, brought back, end up kicking a field goal. So I think UTEP fans at this point, they thought, hey, a touchdown wins the game. The Miners could actually win the game and pull this one off somehow in a crazy fashion. Nope. Instead, UTEP's drive stalls. They had 2 different chances to kick a field goal, and both of them fall flat from field goal kicker Buzz Flaviano. You could blame the field goal kicking. You could blame the inefficiencies on offense. You could blame the fact that the play calling down the stretch was a little questionable and maybe a little bit overthought at certain points. But there are 2 things that I'm pointing my finger of blame here after this loss. Number 1, it's the 14 penalties. And number 2, it is just the inexperience and almost the mismatch that is currently presenting itself for the Miners inside the trenches. I thought second half and really second quarter on, Southern Utah established themselves inside the trenches. Offensive line, defensive line. That's the difference of it, and that scares me, Alberto, because this is a Division I FBS team here in UTEP. They can't lose out on an offensive line battle against an FCS squad like this. This cannot happen here in the future. And then on the flip side, on the D-line for UTEP, they got pushed around. I thought Southern Utah was able to establish a ground game that was very strong and and they ran hard in this matchup when it was all said and done.
Was really disappointing to see UTEP get dominated in the trenches. We've said it once, we'll say it again. These football games are won in the trenches, so to see you yourself get dominated by a team that's in the lower echelons of their divisions, of their football, that's not what you want to see. The question that came to my mind about the offensive line is, well, where do you go from here? It's game 2. You can't recruit in the middle of the season. How are you going to drastically improve the O-line to give your quarterbacks the time to...
Okay, we've got full phone lines already, 915-505-6009. Let's just get to it. Let's start it off. It is Francisco who's joining us first. Francisco, good evening. What's going on?
Yeah, good evening. All right, here we're devastated from going to the game. We were expecting better from our team. We bought 20 tickets to go in, and the team didn't perform on the second half towards the end. The kicker messed up twice, and then on overtime they messed up on choosing the such score against the win, but that affected those 2 missed kicks. But after the first missed kick, I think the coach should have went for it on 4th down because the kicker is no good. And the worst situation is that we lost against
Yeah, FCS school. Not a lower division, but an FCS school. You're exactly right, Francisco.
Yes, and also, we were all supporting. We wanted to support our city. That coach mocked us on yesterday and everything. So we wanted to be there and beat the team for different reasons, right? But the team didn't do good at all on the second half, and they couldn't stop the running game. But the calls towards the end, we had a lot of chances to win it. You could say luckily towards our favor, and we didn't punch it through.
No, they did not. They had multiple opportunities, Francisco. I appreciate your phone call, man. Thanks for weighing in on the program. They had Francisco brings up a good point. It wasn't just one opportunity. It was multiple opportunities by the Utep Miners. They had multiple chances to close this one out. They had multiple chances, even in the first quarter or in the first half, to put more points on the board and to have more success. But instead, they fell short in this game. I think it was disappointing on a lot of people's accounts from how this one ended up. So let's keep it moving. Our telephone number, 915-505-6009. If you're trying to get in, continue to try so. We just freed up a phone line. Let's go to Antonio next. Antonio, good evening. What's going on?
Hey, man. So I'm just upset at the game. I think this falls on Scotty Walden from Italy. The players kicked butt. They did their thing. Another thing, very curious, I'm trying to post on X at Utep football, and it disappears. So what's going on there?
Uh-oh. Are they trying to, trying to hide us right now? No, I'm looking at it right now. I'll just say maybe it's a little spotty connection, Antonio. I hope they didn't block you or anything like that. That's no good. I don't like any of that kind of stuff. So, and I don't like it from the the program's perspective. So I don't think that ends up happening. I'm just chalking it up to your service right there. But for this team right here, Antonio, I'm with you. I think that a lot of Miner fans are really disappointed. I think a lot of Miner fans had a chip on their shoulder going into this matchup, hoping that Utep could silence Coach Fitzgerald for all the, the wrong things that he said about the community, and, even our sister city in Juarez. So I think this one left a really sour taste in a lot of people's mouths.
Yeah, not only that, I can tell you, the coaching decisions right now, they look horrible. He brought a bunch of people from RCP because they were the best and all this stuff. Like, they're playing like FCS again, so this is nonsense. They need to get some real players in here.
All right, man. I appreciate it, Antonio. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for calling in on the program, and we'll talk to you soon. Hey, we'll keep it moving. 915-505-6009, 600 ESPN El Paso on Twitter and X, and 600 ESPNElPaso.com here later on in the program, where you can check out some of the articles up later on the show. Hey, I also want to mention a big shout out to all our callers here on the program. We've got one phone line available right now, so if you're trying to get in, give us a call, 915-505-6009. Coming up next, it's Carlos who's joining us next. Carlos, good evening. What's going on?
Hey, what's going on, boys? I think everyone just said it's a disappointing loss tonight, but for me personally, the main issue was the play calling, on both sides of the ball, right? There were so many times throughout this game where Southern Utah's quarterback, it'd be 3rd and 15, and he would just scramble with absolutely no one covering him, and it happened so many times that you begin questioning whether or not, why not put a spy on him? Why not try something a little bit different instead of just sending a full-out blitz in those types of situations? And, you said it earlier best, Adrian, where the play calling got too cute, and way too cute towards the latter half of the games, right? Trying to be smart instead of just trying to move the ball down the field, and, yeah, those are the initial thoughts I had during this game and even afterwards.
Yeah, Carlos, it's kind of still settling in. This feels like a nightmare. Honestly, it really feels like one. Dana Dimmel, in his first home game here at Utep, lost 30-10 to Northern Arizona. That was a top 25 FCS program at the time, Northern Arizona. Southern Utah last year finished 6-5 in their respective league in the FCS ranks, so they're not necessarily like a top 50 program out of the FCS division, and they came into El Paso and beat them. And I'll be honest with you, in the second half, they outmatched UTEP. I felt like the Miners really struggled in that second half, Carlos.
For sure. The second half was, again, you said it best, nightmarish. It just felt as if UTEP was helpless. Just nothing could go right. And, I've honestly lost at words, honestly, Adrian.
Yeah. I hear you, man. Hey, I appreciate it, Carlos. Thanks for weighing in on the program. Thanks for voicing your frustrations with us. We've got phone lines available, 915-505-6009. Let's keep it moving. 600 ESPN El Paso on Twitter and X, and 600 ESPNElPaso.com. Let's move on along. It is Lance who's joining us next. Oh, Lance, we've been here before, my friend. This is not, you're calling me here on MinerTalk. We've had this discussion before. Is it ever going to change, Lance?
Well, first of all, I think I'm going to share the same sentiment that everyone does. And, it is very disappointing, but I'm going to look at it a different way. Yes, 14 penalties, questionable play calling. Yes, there's a lot of things that need to be cleaned up. But if you look at this team as opposed to in years past, once the team went down, you knew at that point it was over. But for them to go ahead and, put together a drive to send the game to at least overtime and give yourself an opportunity, I think that shows some character for this team. So I'm going to look at it a different way. I'm going to take a positive out of it, even though it is a very disappointing loss. What do you think about that?
Well, I'll tell you this, Lance. How far they fell in the third quarter. I mean, it was atrocious. I'll give you a couple stats, and I'm trying to be light on some of these words that I'm using right here, but it's just the reality. At the end of the third quarter, Southern Utah, in just that quarter alone, they outgained Utep in total yards, 100 to just 22. That's unacceptable. Utep went in that quarter alone 0 for 3 on third downs. They had 3 penalties for 25 yards, and they failed to average more than 3 yards per play. End of the third quarter, the Miners were just non-existent. It's like they skipped that third quarter right there. Fourth quarter rolls around, Utep gets on the move, and they get some life on their side of things, but they're not able to score all the way until the end of the game. So you're right, the urgency that was there, even the creativity that was there on that Philly, the Utep Philly special pass, the touchdown pass from Jaden Smith to Skylar Locklear. I thought those were bright moments, but if you don't execute for the final stretch, if you don't close out the game and win it, then what are those points right there? You don't get points for morale, and I get it. They're still trying to find their identity, but it's an inexcusable loss right here at Lance.
I mean, I would completely agree with that, especially having only 5 home games this year. If you go 5-0 at home, you just take 1 win on the road to be bowl eligible. Now you put yourself in a very difficult position. But, if it is the second game of the new regime, it is a bad loss, but I think we need to give them an opportunity to bounce back.
No doubt, Lance. I agree with that completely. I mean, it's very early in the season. Like I mentioned, I really don't feel like Utep has an identity right now on both sides of the ball. I feel like they lack that identity. I think that identity could come in October, and maybe it's coming with some of the younger players, some of the younger talent on this roster. Maybe it's with some of the different talent that you're not seeing on the field right now. But regardless, something needs to kind of change here to shake things up on this team early. I know it's early in the year, and I know this team is very new and very fresh to everything. I know this coaching staff is very young as well. So I think they're going to look inward when it comes to a lot of this stuff, and I think they're going to try to readjust here moving forward. Hey, we had a chat coming in from YouTube. Thank you for this one here, Chris, on Inspo Lens. This is from Aaliyah Tucker. It's disappointing loss, but it's even more disappointing that the fans are not giving the team a chance. The season isn't over. I completely agree. I mean, I'm saying that right now. I completely agree when it comes to the fact that the season is not over. It's not all doom and gloom. This is just a nightmarish start. This is a long season. That's why I get a little concerned with things like this, where UTEP drops a game in which they're supposed to beat. On paper, they were a 7-point favorite, and in the second half, they just didn't look like that same team. Do I think UTEP will go winless? Do I think the season's over? No, of course not. There's a lot of opportunity for this team to have other chances throughout the year. But this is a red flag to me. I mean, at least to start things off, you have to win a game like this that is as highly anticipated as it was. I mean, the hype was through the roof for this game. So for fans to try to downplay, oh, it's just the first game. This is an FCS team. This was all the hype. This was sold to UTEP fans for excitement and for a huge performance by the Miners. And you know what? It was a back and forth game. It was very entertaining, if you want to take it that route. But, you know, the season isn't over. It's just a bad start right here, a nightmare start, having lost to an FCS opponent here. And we'll talk more about the roadmaps and where the season could go. But as far as saying the season's over, no, I'm not saying the season's over. Quite the contrary. The season has just started. And this is not the best start that you can have here for this UTEP football program. 915-505-6009. Fernie is next. Then we'll go to Sergio. Fernie, good evening. What's going on?
And you know what? I mean, I knew it like from the start when Warren got, Scotty got hired and stuff, this rah-rah coach stuff, and he brings this whole staff, which is unorthodox. When he hires, you start, you come to a team and stuff, and then he brought a lot of his players over. I mean, it was just like, wait, I mean, what's he doing here? Okay, he's hooking up all his young, assistants to a mid-major team, and then his players, he's bringing them over to maybe they wouldn't have. I mean, if it wasn't for UTEP, they might not be playing at a mid-major team. And I mean, I could see the guy at the sidelines today just all over the place. He needs to tone it down, right? And maybe that was the problem at halftime. Where at halftime where they were doing their little rah-rah routine and they didn't adjust.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of interesting, right? Because what did you think of the fire extinguisher? What did you think of the rally towels on the sideline?
My God. Look, you know what? He's not ready for prime time here, and it's showing, and it's like, you need to tone it down, become a coach, and stop arguing with the refs, and then, all these penalties, and it's like, it just showed, and it's just, it was an embarrassment, what happened in the second half, and I can almost guarantee what was going on in that locker room. Everybody was probably just jumping up and down probably and saying they were going to win. It's like, man, that's not the way you do it. I mean, you should have just toned it down and said, hey, look, these guys might adjust, and which they did, and it's an FCS team, so really, you're looking at a 0-4 start, probably. MSU, I mean, last time I looked, they were beating Liberty. They're still continuing, their third year. Aggravating that Warren over here is playing cheerleader, and it's like, dude, this is different, man. This is totally different. And then you got it handed to you, and what are you going to do to adjust? Are you going to still jump up and down, on the sidelines? And I mean, it's different. He's younger. Maybe the players can, relate to him, but it didn't work. It didn't work for Nebraska. It didn't work right now. What are we going to face? We're going to face Liberty on the road and Colorado State on the road, and this is not looking like I'm looking at 0-12 here. 12 here.
All right, I'm going to give you my thoughts on the 0-12 possibility here in just a little bit. But I also just want to say this, Fernie, and hey, I appreciate your phone call. You're a UTEP diehard. You know your stuff when it comes to UTEP football, so I appreciate your thoughts. I appreciate your take here on the program. My thoughts on all this right here, I think to say that, to go back and start questioning some of the moves and tactics and all of that is a little unfair because there was a lot of fans who just were on board for all the hype. Now, let's say you didn't necessarily love the hype and you didn't love the rah-rah stuff and you wanted to see what they could do on the field before you bought in on the program. That's totally fine. That's acceptable right there. If you're skeptical when it comes to just the hype and just that rah-rah stuff until you see the product on the field. So for those people who bought in to the hype and bought into all the excitement, well, they were let down today. I just got a text from a longtime friend of the program, Locomotive Miner, who said, I have some friends that were brought in, who bought in with Scotty. They never come to games. They came today and they're never coming back. Scotty lost a lot of potential new fans already, unfortunately. And that's just the reality. The Utep diehards are always going to be bought in. They're always going to go to the games. They're always going to support. They're always going to listen here to MinerTalk and voice their frustrations. But the Fairweather fans, the fans who come from time to time, who don't necessarily always spend their time at Utep games, they're out. They're going to be checked out completely after Southern Utah defeats Utep. Is that fair? No, I don't think that's necessarily fair, but it's understandable if you're a Fairweather fan and that's the kind of person you are, where you're going to just go somewhere different with your hard-earned money and for your entertainment kind of dollars. Now the roadmap to 0-12. That's a reality, right? I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. I would be shocked if this team went 0-12. I predicted them to go 4-8. I had them beating Southern Utah on my predictions, though, so I was already wrong on that. Next week, Liberty, just like Fernie said. The week after that, it's Colorado State. Then they get a bye week. I don't think we're really going to understand what kind of UTEP team this is until the first week of October when they take on Sam Houston, for better or for worse. And when I say worse, I'm also talking about Conference USA, which isn't good. I mean, I crowned Liberty the jewel of the conference, and right now, just like Fernie mentioned, New Mexico State is leading 24-15 in Las Cruces with 5 to go. And just as I say that, Liberty broke through with a touchdown run right now, trying to put some more points on the board, maybe even tie this one up with 5 to go in this game. But the point is, this is a bad conference. This is a bad league. UTEP has opportunities to have success in this conference. Will they seize that opportunity? We'll find out. I mean, I think that right now they've got an uphill battle. It's going to be a test of character, and a test of the coaching staff to see what kind of momentum they can reinstill in this team. I mean, you check that sideline in the second half, the body language was terrible. Can that be improved? Of course. Of course it can. So I'm just going to be interested to see how they do it. This is a nightmarish start for the season. Hey, Alberto, when it comes to a roadmap, 0-12 is not outside the realm of possibility.
No, definitely not, especially as the weeks go on. And I know that, it's a game of football. Injuries can and definitely will pile on if you're not careful. Luckily, the Miners have, a bye week sprinkled in there. I just want to comment about the antics of the team and the coaches on the sideline pre and then into the second half. I have this very particular take on the way teams act when they come out of the locker room right before the game. And if you don't sustain that energy throughout the entirety of the match, then the other team can quickly point to you and say, well, look, they're not doing all those shenanigans they were doing at the beginning of the game. We must be kicking their butts pretty good. And that just kind of fuels your team. So that's my issue with the energy. You have to sustain the energy the entire game, all 4 quarters, because if you don't, the other team will point to you and be like, look, we're kicking their butts. They got their tail between their legs. They're not acting the way they were. They're not all confident. So that's my issue. If you're going to be confident the whole way through, because if not, in my opinion, it looks bad on you.
Okay, let's keep it moving. 915-505-6009. We got one line available. So if you've been trying to get into the program, now's the time to do it. 915-505-6009. Coming up next is Sergio. Then we'll go to Matt. We also have to mention this. I just saw this right now. I mean, this is a staggering stat. Southern Utah had 268 yards on the ground tonight on 47 carries. Wow. 47 carries, 268 on the ground. They average almost 6 yards a carry on the ground here tonight in this win. Hey, we're presented by Jack in the Box. Also, a big shout out to the Oscar Arieta Agency, the District Pub and Kitchen West, and New Start Homes and Wind Supply El Paso for sponsoring us here on MinerTalk. Let's keep it moving. Sergio is next. 915-505-6009, 600 ESPN El Paso, Twitter, X, and also our 600 ESPN El Paso YouTube stream, which is powered by Inspo Lens. Sergio, good evening. What's going on, my man?
Hey, how's it going, Adrian?
It's going all right, Sergio. Give me your thoughts on this game.
Just got back from the game. Great game if you're a football fan. Overtime, you got everything going on the line. Scotty Walden tried to get his first win, first home game, everything, It felt like it was a sellout crowd. I don't know if it was, but the energy was there. And I think, wow, what a good game to watch. Unfortunately, we got the bad end of it. But you could start seeing the players, who are the stars, from the Nebraska game to the game now. Who are the stars coming out?
Okay, let me ask you. Let me stop you there, Sergio. Who are some of the stars in your eyes?
The cornerbacks right now on the defense are doing really good. And you got to say, on the offense, we got the quarterback. I think Locklear, he's a man, and he's got to go forward, thinking he is a man, and he's got to lead this team, get everyone together. So those are my offensive, defensive stars right there.
Okay, you like the corners, you like the quarterbacks. Those are your stars so far. Sergio, how do they move forward? Okay, how do they move forward here the rest of the season?
Think about who Southern Utah played before. They got Utah, a game that they dominated today against a really good team, and Utah State. They've all been moving forward, moving up, and then now we got Southern Utah. They're not a team that's right behind a team like Kennesaw State or Jacksonville State or someone that's in Conference USA. So, that's a pretty good team out there. They did what they had to do, and unfortunately, they did what they had to do against us, and they got the win. And now we got to regroup. I still think we got a great season ahead of us. I believe in the culture that Scotty Walden is trying to bring here, and I believe we're still in a great, side to probably, do good in this conference that's kind of, everywhere. Like you just said, Liberty and NMSU. NMSU is about to win.
But Sergio, let me stop you real quick because I'm getting crazy here hearing this right here. What is good in your eyes? Like winning 3 games out of Conference USA, winning 4? Like what's good in your eyes as far as success in Conference USA?
In Conference USA right now, what Utep needs to do is, of course, they need to win the conference. It hasn't been done in such a long time.
All right, thank you for the phone call, Sergio. Let's move along. 915-505-6009. That's our telephone number. 600 ESPN El Paso on Twitter next, and 600 ESPNElPaso.com. Sorry guys, I can't talk conference championships after losing to an FCS opponent. I have no patience for that right now, guys. Does that make me a little blunt or brutal right there on just kind of cutting that conversation off a little short there, Sal? I just don't think that talking conference titles, and let me just say this. Southern Utah came in, they had a decent performance in this matchup. They had 9 penalties for 80 yards themselves, so they had sloppy points in this game. They didn't necessarily light the world on fire. But still, with this Southern Utah team, I'm not going to tout this team like anybody in Conference USA, Sal. No. I'm not going to necessarily tell you that they are a team that you got to keep an eye out for on the radar. Every other Conference USA team last week, most of them I should say, played an FCS opponent, and everybody escaped from being defeated last week and upset by FCS opponents last week. This week, Utep gets upset by an FCS team in Southern Utah.
Yeah, I don't understand the Conference USA championship talk. This is year 20. They haven't even sniffed the championship game. They've sniffed it once in men's sports, or twice rather, maybe 3 times. And this is all basketball. So I know it's not more than 3. So if I'm wrong there, my bad. But as far as championship talk, I can understand it because the team they played next week was in the Conference USA championship.
There you go.
And guess what? If we're doing proximity, it's on there. I'm lagging on this stream. FBI will never catch me. No, but the Aggies made their Conference USA championship in their inaugural year, so I guess Utep can claim that by proximity.
There you go. There you go. Sal Montes, the co-host here on MinerTalk, is in. And I didn't introduce you formally. I was caught off guard by that call, so I just had to react with you really quick on that one. Man, we are back. We are officially back, Sal. This is the most back that we've ever been. This is year 5 of MinerTalk. We're presented by Jack in the Box, and thanks to the Oscar Ariete Agency, the District Pub and Kitchen, the Wind Supply El Paso, and New Start Homes for sponsoring us here on MinerTalk. We are back, Sal, and we are talking another disappointing loss. We're going to be here forever.
This is, it's a painful one. And the crazy part is it was the home opener under a new coach, but it's the same exact feeling, man. It's an ugly loss. We hear all the time how fans need to go out and support. Well, guess what? Third time's the charm, right? Not really. Because this is the third biggest crowd they've seen in the last, 2-3 years. And it's unacceptable, man. You got to be able to capitalize on it. I don't care if it's an FCS team. If you're trying to uphold the standard and the culture that you're building, I guess, you can't be losing to a team like Southern Utah, even if you're Utep football, who's FBS. So I understand it, given history. If somebody was born maybe 15 years ago or so, and they're like, you know what, it's not that far-fetched for Southern Utah to beat Utep. Okay, that's fine. But if you remember the early Mike Price days, who never lost to an FCS team, okay, look it up. This is something that you got to have a higher standard for. But the sad part is, standard is not losing to an FCS team. However, it is not making a bowl game either. So there has to be a lot of improvement, man. I know it's a lot of upset people, and I'm one of them. And it's still early, but this is something that you can't be excited about. The momentum right now is basically dead. I don't know what the rest of the season is going to look like.
Yeah, I don't know either. We just talked about a possible roadmap to 0-12, Sal. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but we'll revisit that with Zay later on here in the program. We've got Matt, George, and Mike on the lines. We've got Alberto in the house as well. Chris on Inspel Lens has us live on YouTube and Twitter and X as well, so you can watch us, you can listen to us live, and of course, you can also check us out afterward on our MinerTalk podcast. You mentioned UTEP had 3 games where there was a lot of hype, a lot of anticipation going into the Sun Bowl, where they fell flat. Let's review those games. 2021, UTSA comes to town. It's a 6-3 UTEP team that year. This is the year that UTEP actually went to a bowl game under Dana Dimmel and, of course, quarterback Gavin Hardison. UTSA was ranked 25th in the country. They came to town here in El Paso. El Paso put up 35,000 in attendance, and UTSA came in and destroyed UTEP 44-23. That was the final. How about the 9-1-5 game? This was 2022. Home opener for UTEP that year. All the hype. Coming off a bowl game and coming off a bowl appearance out at the PUBG New Mexico Bowl. They go up against North Texas, and they lose 31-13 following a lightning delay that kept fans in the concourse area forever. And that home opener was spoiled. It was a sold-out crowd of 46,000 plus. Everybody was hyped for this game, the 9-1-5 game, and they fell flat in that one, lost 31-13. In this one, FCS team, all the hype in the world when it comes to head coach Scotty Walden and company, and they end up dropping it in this one in overtime, 27-24. Back to the phone lines we go. 915-505-6009. Matt is next on the phone lines. Matt, good evening. What's going on?
Hey, it was a beautiful night. The crowd was great. The students were awesome. There's a lot of students there even till the end. So that was all good. It was a disappointing loss. I can't believe they can't find a better kicker on campus.
I know. Hey, we were talking in the group chats right now about some different kickers who could go out for it. And hey, Buzz Flaviano just recently earned a scholarship, so he obviously did something in the offseason to impress some of the coaches, right? He went ice cold at the end. That was just, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal was. And I was in the north end zone during the fourth quarter when Miners were driving to the south end zone, and there was a car that turns its headlights on as the Miners are driving towards the end zone. And it was very distracting. I don't know what...
Wait, like on the field?
It was in the where you can drive up the south end zone there, where you can drive the ambulances up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. Huh. That's interesting.
Music when we have the ball, and when the quarterback's trying to hear it, he's like covering his ears. We're playing loud music, getting the crowd hyped up. Too close to when they're snapping when we're in offense. I'm like, let me get up to the booth, let me control that stuff.
I like it. I like that.
I understand doing it when the other team has the ball, but that, and then the loudest the crowd was when we had the ball on fourth down. I was like, I think the loudest the crowd got. I was like, what? I was like, quiet down, people. But anyway.
Wow. This is good stuff. See, this is the stuff I miss, Matt. I love hearing this kind of stuff because I never hear this kind of stuff. I'm in the booth, so I don't hear anything like this.
Okay, yeah. It's different perspectives from all over, I'm sure. But, it's disappointing, but there's a lot of parity between FCS and the bottom of D1 now. So many good players all over the place and being able to transfer and stuff. So, and those two, it's hard to stop small running backs like those. Tough for any team. So, I think they're going to have some success later in the season, Southern Utah.
We'll see. We'll see how that ends up being. I don't know. I don't know enough about FCS to tell you that Southern Utah is going to go out and be, one of the teams to watch in the FCS playoffs. But I appreciate your thoughts there, Matt, and I appreciate the phone call. When I think about all this, Sal, I just go back to the offensive line issues. Like, you can talk all you want about how shifty, how dynamic that running back was for Southern Utah. And by the way, for Southern Utah, I mentioned this earlier. They had 268 yards on the ground. Lamston torched UTEP with 20 carries, 183 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, averaged almost 10 yards a carry for this rushing attack. Despite all of that, I just felt like their offensive line just had more push on UTEP's D-line in the second half, and that was the biggest difference right there in the trenches.
And I think it's kind of an early sign of taking advantage of that 3-3-5 style defense. You're able to be more powerful because you have bigger bodies in there. No matter how many guys you try to stack, it's not a true lineman rather, against a true lineman. You know what I mean? It's hybrids going at it. And it's no disrespect. That's just the way that the game plan goes out. And the troubling thing when looking at Lamson's stats is his longest run was a 46-yard, right? A 46-yard gain. He still averages 9.2 yards per carry after it's all said and done. But even if you take away that near half a football field of a run, he's still averaging, a good amount there. So they didn't really need those chunk plays. And if we look at those third downs that they were able to get, a number of them came by way of their legs. So
good point.
You got to give them credit, man. They just were able to pick their spots and get to it a lot quicker. We're going to have to look out for this run defense for the Miners the rest of the year, just based off of the defensive philosophy.
Yeah, that's a great point. I actually really like that point a lot, Sal. Let's keep it moving. 915-505. That's 6009. 915-505-6009. Let's move it. It's going on to Mike. Next up on the program, Mike. Good evening. What's going on?
Wait, Mike?
Mike, what's going on? George, what's happening? George, my fault. My apologies. George, how are you?
Pointed. I stayed till the bitter end. It was a tough loss. It shouldn't have happened, but it is what it is, man. I mean, these kids, they went out and played their hearts out. I feel that the intensity kind of lagged off in the second half. I don't know. It's still up in the air for me. I mean, I think we should have done a better job defensively. Offensively, there was a lot of missed opportunities. You just can't allow an FCS team to come in and just dominate you in the second quarter. I feel the intensity was not there. It's hard coming in when you're leading at the half to keep that intensity up. But yeah, I agree. There should have been adjustments. Those missed opportunities towards the end where we should have punched it in and we were playing really, really safe where we should have taken those opportunities down the field, and we just didn't. We just didn't perform. There's no reason why we shouldn't have won this game. There's no reason. I don't think there should have been a reason for it to be a tight game and then go into overtime. I think we could have taken care of this team. It just the intensity and like I said before, the lack of adjustments by the coaching staff really put a lot of damper in all of the play calling that was happening.
Yep, I hear you, man. I hear you. George, where do they go from here?
Well, I mean, they have to look, take a good hard look at themselves. It's not impossible to win. They came close to it. It's not impossible, but they have to chalk this off, kind of let it roll off, make it a wake-up call for Scotty, and they're just going to have to play their hearts out and just let the chips fall where they may. Okay. They got Liberty, they got Colorado. Those are tough opponents right there.
I hear you, man. George, I appreciate you, man, as always. You're the man for always tuning into the program, always supporting us here on MinerTalk. And you got an 18-year-old who's about to celebrate a birthday here, right around the corner. So I'm excited for that as well. Hey, appreciate that. Let's keep it moving. Alberto, I'm going to need you to read some of these YouTube messages. I have so much going on my phone right now. My phone is absolutely blowing up. So I'm going to need you to, I'm going to lean on you to read some of these YouTube messages that are coming in as well. Big shout out to Inspo Lens, Chris Kolinek, helping us out here and making history with us here on MinerTalk. This is some great stuff. We've never really done this before where we've done a live stream feed, but it's great to do this, and it's great to get some more traction on different platforms here as we continue. And we welcome on our YouTube audience as well. Alberto, I'll swing it to you right after we get out to Memo, who's joining us next, 915-505-6009. We just opened up a phone line if you've been trying to get into the program and you can't because it's busy, 915-505-6009. Oh, Memo, we're talking about a heartbreaking loss here, my friend. What's going on?
I know, Adrian, Zay, Alberto, big fan of you guys, first of all. Second of all, it's just tough, man. It's tough as a fan. You've been hearing about it since Montes, Scotty Walden, the whole Scotty Walden. This is a new era. We're going against an FCS school. Vegas is telling us we're 6.5 points. It's over under is 52.5 points, whatever. So we're that, and then we just go on the edge. So it's just hard as a fan to understand, to see what's actually going on in the program, where we're going, what's the direction of this program, because it just feels like day in and day out, like as a fan, you just get a heartbreak and after heartbreak and after heartbreak. And as a fan, you feel like an idiot, honestly, like you feel dumb. Because every year you support these guys and you think that every year is going to be different. And I get it. But, like, you know, it just every year is the same thing. It's the same thing every year. And it's hard and it's tough. And I'm just like looking at you guys to be like, somebody give me some hope. Give me something to look forward to, because it's tough, man. It's tough out here. Like, it's tough. It's tough, Adrian. It's tough, Day. Like, what do we have? Like, what is it? Like, we were promised all these things, and then we go and lay an egg against an FCN school. Like, what's actually going on? Like, what do we have?
Oh, man. Memo, you're a mess right now, my friend. Oh, man. Wow. You know what? Sal, real quick, before we get to Alberto, because we need to read these YouTube comments. And great job. Too, yeah. Great job there, Memo. I appreciate you. Sal, It's nothing new. What's new about this, right?
The uniforms?
The Digicam?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point. Well, I mean, this is the reality of being a Utep Miner fan. It's a cycle, right? You get excited about all the hype, you get all hyped up, it's a big peak, and then boom, comes crashing down for whatever reason. Whatever brings you down is going to bring you crashing down. And that is that reality of sometimes, if you are a Utep fan, like Memo just called in saying, it's the dread that you face. As far as hopelessness, I'm not there yet. I believe in this program, this coaching staff. I believe in the future of this kind of build with this program. So I'm bought into the future, knowing that the short term is something that UTEP fans are going to have to either stomach now, accept now, and then hope for later. You know, because that's in my reality, Sal. When I was evaluating this program and this team this year here in 2024, I was thinking in my head, this is not for this year, not for 2024. This is for the future.
Yeah, and that's what the process usually is, right? For a team that's in the G5 or G6, I don't know. There's new numbers nowadays, but basically, if you're a non-power school, right, the leash is a little bit longer. The preparation time to be a contender for your conference is a little bit longer as well. So it's hard to really cash it all in right now, but it's not hard emotionally at the moment to completely cash out.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah. I'm with you. I'm not out. I'm not out on the season yet. I'm not out on the coaching staff. I'm still, you know, I'm bought into at least the philosophy of what their hopes are for the coming years. So that's where I'm at right now. And I appreciate the phone call. We got Milkman coming up next. We've got Enrique who wants to join us as well. And then we've got Sebastian Perez Navarro who's going to join us also. Alberto, before we get to everybody, let's hear some YouTube comments. You go right ahead.
Back and forth amongst three people on the YouTube comments. Shout out to them for tuning in through YouTube. So Eric Bauer starts things off. She says, the biggest concern for me is how our O-line was dominated. I think this will be a big test for Coach Walden and his staff. Play calling needs to be adjusted to help the line out when that is happening. And then ChronoLink responds, Scotty Walden is just a hype man. That's it. How the heck do you run the ball when the time is running out at the last drive? Southern Utah shot themselves in the foot, and we couldn't take advantage. And to that, PRS Manny says, for those saying UTEP should have gone for it, I get the call. It's safe. It's your kicker. You want to build him up. Let him know you believe in him. But WTF. And to that, ChronoLink responds, Walden is like Temco Bowl on Ness. He only has 4 plays. QB keeper, running back run up the middle to nowhere, random pass, and a long throw. That's it. That's all I saw in the stadium. PRS Manny responds, I'm not saying that I would have made it or you too, but I'm saying the best high school kicker in El Paso would have made that. This is D1 football, and you do that twice. And to that, Eric Bauer 01 responds, yeah, it's unacceptable for a kicker who's on a scholarship to produce those last 2 kicks that he did. If you cannot even trust your kicker to make a chip shot, then that significantly hurts. ChronoLink calls us, well, it's the Austin P Miners. Technically, we are an FCS team now.
Good stuff on Twitter. Yeah, I agree with you there, Sal. You just said not wrong. As far as Buzz Flabiano, let's just go through the stats super quickly. He made a 43-yarder, guys. Did we forget about that? He made one today, 43 yards out. That was in the second quarter right before halftime. By the way, the Miners should have scored on that drive. Let me just say it right there. They should have scored another touchdown on that drive in the second quarter. I think that was a missed opportunity right there. Fourth quarter, he misses a 26-yarder. And then in overtime, he misses a 32-yarder. Those you got to make, Sal. You got to make those 2.
We also are forgetting the one that was negated.
Yeah,
because of the
he missed that one
encroachment.
too.
You know, that's 2 missed field goals.
And that was a chip shot.
Exactly, you know, to kind of close things out. So that's a bad look. I get it though. He was, I think, 7 for 7, or he made 7 out of his last 7 attempts. But all good things come to an end. But there is one thing that didn't come to an end tonight. That's the Miners' home losing streak. What is it, 6 in a row now, dating back to last year? So, man, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Liberty can't come soon enough. But speaking of Liberty, They beat New Mexico State. They went
What a
and came
comeback.
back. 30-24 was the final, just down the road from us in Las Cruces. So, that's what you want. You want a chance to compete with the league's contenders, or be one yourself, and that's exactly what took place in Las Cruces. This is their second year in Conference USA.
Alfonso Frias, MinerTalk. Is there a betting website where you could bet the over-under for penalties? Take the over next week and we'll be rich. Victor Neff, losers no matter who the Miner coach is. Ugh. And Victor Neff follows it up. The announcer said Utep crowd was in shock the way it ended. Why? They know we suck. This is coming from Pick My Axe 915. Walden Hype Train is derailed. Awful stuff. A mediocre FCS team came into the Sun Bowl and won. Steven Wrestler, I'm all for giving a coach 3 full years to prove their worth, but this sucked and it was atrocious and embarrassing. El Chingon, same old UTEP. They will always find a way to embarrass themselves, and every year losing to a lower division team makes it look even worse. This team sucks. Oh, man. Fans are really, really disappointed right now. Again, I'm going to say this again. I said it once and I'll say it again. Season's not over. It's not doom and gloom just yet. It's only game number 2, but this is a nightmarish start. This is a nightmarish start to a season that had so much hype. I don't know about promise. I think saying promise and hype are 2 different things, but so much hype and excitement, yet they fall flat right here against an FCS team at home. Next up is Milkman, 915-505-6009. Full lines here on MinerTalk. We're going to pull a late one here tonight. And stand by, Alberto. I'll give you our legal ID here in just a bit. Let's pause 10 seconds for station identification. You're listening to MinerTalk, brought to you by Jack in the Box here on 600 ESPN El Paso.
Streaming worldwide through the 600 ESPN El Paso mobile app. 600 ESPN El Paso. Use KROD El Paso.
Back to the phones. Milkman is next. Milkman, good evening, man. What's happening?
Hey. Okay, so yeah, I got some thoughts, but before I get to anything about football, I got to get this off my chest. What was going on with the concession? Holy cow! I don't know. I guess there was some kind of fundraiser or something, because when I finally got up to the front of the line, it looked like it was like Hank's cheerleaders or something like that. But we went to get our concessions at the start of halftime and got back to our seats with 5 minutes left in the third quarter. Absolutely unacceptable. I was like, what is going on? We went 15. And when I finally got up, I guess we chose the slowest line, because when I finally got up to the front, it was kids waiting on us. And I'm like, are we kidding here? Like, what's going on? Like, there's a football game going on. Anyway, they got to fix that. That's ridiculous. We spent way too long in the concession line.
I appreciate you telling us that one, Milkman. I appreciate it, because we don't hear things like this. So thank you, and we'll hear if anybody else had similar problems.
Okay. All right. So now, I guess I should say I'm not, you're right, it's not doom and gloom, because it's his first year, he's got to kind of start from scratch. But I got to tell you, I was fighting this feeling that I had earlier on in the year, when I was like, oh, this guy transferred from Austin Peay. Okay, oh, that guy transferred from Austin Peay. That guy transferred from Austin Peay too. Okay, all right. I'm like, so apparently we have Austin Peay playing for us, and I was like, you know what? I guess he knows what he's doing, but this is FBS, not FCS. But I was like, okay. I guess he knows what he's doing, but tonight it looked like, an FCS school out there, because they got beat by an FCS school. That's unacceptable. It really is. I will say this. I listened to the post game, and I heard stuff that I have never heard Dana. He said, this loss is on me, and I apologize to the fans. And, that he used the word unacceptable, which it absolutely is. And I'm glad to hear him talk like that. And hope for the future. I know that, like I said, he's starting up, and we really can't. I was going to say we really can't hold this against him, but I mean, losing to an SDS school, it really is. That's a problem.
Yeah, no, he's absolutely right. Yeah, and I was taking notes on that post game interview as well, and this was also in regards to the rush by Southern Utah, saying it was unacceptable. Against Nebraska, he said there were tight sets and they were just a hat short, and they wanted a crowd. They wanted to be more physical, more hats, more numbers in the box. And he said he's going to assess film. He does credit Southern Utah, and he can take being beaten through the air, but not on the ground. And it's back-to-back weeks where we've seen them get beat on the ground. So no, he's spot on. Yeah, he took full responsibility for it. However, we heard this last week as well. I know it's different opponents and whatnot, but it's 2 games in, and we've heard it twice.
Yeah, it's a good point. Milkman, I appreciate your phone call. We got to keep it moving. We got a bunch of phone calls to get to, but we'll continue the conversation. And like I said, we just appreciate you weighing in here on the program. 915-505-6009. We haven't really diced the quarterback talk yet. I think we'll wait. We'll wait for Zay, and we'll wait till we can all talk a little quarterback situation right now. Some say, throw Cade McConnell in. What was going on? Why didn't they flip over to him? Others said, no, Skylar earned it. He shouldn't have been pulled the entire game. What happened to the Miners wasn't, Skylar Locklear's fault out of this one right here. So we'll talk different opinions there as we continue here on the program. 915-505-6009. Enrique is next up on the phone lines. Enrique, good evening, man. What's happening?
Hey, Adrian. Well, first off, I'm sorry if I said all scratchy. I've been yelling my heart out at the party patio.
Nice, man. Hey, no worries. Thank you. Thanks for calling, man.
I had a great opportunity and the privilege of meeting the head coach for the women's volleyball and the assistant coach for the volleyball team. So I just want to say it's really cool to see other programs supporting the Utep football and other Utep athletics. And we're definitely going to be going to some games for the volleyball team. But I did want to address our fans real quick. If you let me, we need to cut this talk out. It's a tough loss. It is a sad loss. But the thing is, we came together as a city. We need to keep coming together as a city. Unfortunately, this guy's work was what brought us together as a city, but we need to keep uniting as a city and support our Miners. This is our team. This is El Paso's team, and we need to support our team. But I am happy to see how we had a flashy start, but there was some really bad officiating, and there was a really missed call that I caught on the field where they usually horse collared and face masked a lot of these Miners on the Southern Utah defensive side of the ball, and I think there was a lot of bad officiating as well. But I think CUSA has had that issue before. I think even last year the officiating crew missed a lot of calls that were supposed to be called in the field, like they were stomping on Miners' helmets and their hands. And I just think that needs to be thrown out to CUSA to investigate. I think maybe some bad officiating. It's been on record as.
Well, wait. Can I just stop you? Can I stop you super quick, Enrique? Who are we dealing with here? We're not dealing with Big 12 officials. We're not dealing with Pac-12 officials. Tonight's officiating crew was CUSA refs. When CUSA refs, they had a Twitter account for this group right here. When CUSA refs are in play, all bets are off. I mean, it's going to be a wacky kind of game. But UTEP racking up the 12 penalties that they had for 130 yards that they put together. Yeah, there were maybe some calls that were missed. But at the same time, UTEP was heavily penalized in this game. And there's no excuse to that one right there.
Oh, no. I agree with that as well. I'm not going to argue that at all. But there's one last thing I just want to get off of. I'm going to confirm what the earlier caller mentioned about the car on the ramp. It was always throwing its lights when the Miners are heading down that part of the field, and I don't know exactly how that caller said. I don't know if it impacted the players at all, but I can confirm I did also see those lights from a vehicle flashing in when the miners are driving on that side of the.
Wow, that's so interesting, man. I didn't know that, and I appreciate your phone call, Enrique. Thank you so much for always tuning in and supporting us here on the program, so I appreciate you as always, man. Yeah, some tough stuff, tough news there when you're hearing that weird distractions are going on there. Alberto, did you see any of this? You were on the field at some points throughout the game. Did you see anything there? But they're not talking about that. They're not talking about those. They're talking about the other vehicles there. Again, I don't think it was necessarily like an owner or anything. I think what they're trying to say is this was like done by Utep as kind of a promotional type of thing. I just didn't see this, so we got to maybe ask Zay. I don't think we're on the same page here. Let's do this. Let's take a timeout right now. ESPN is going to join us. Then we got Brian on the line as well. We got a ton of posts to read. We also have YouTube comments to read as well. But let's take a long overdue timeout here on the program. When we come back, more of Miner Talk presented by Jack in the Box right here on 600 ESPN El Paso.
This is Mike Norwich, owner of Jack in the Box El Paso and Las Cruces. On behalf of our Jack in the Box team, we want to express our support for all local sports here in the borderland. We have an amazing and storied sports history, and we encourage you to continue to support local athletics. Swing into Jack in the Box, where 2 tacos are still the best deal in town. Or enjoy one of our classic burgers, the Bacon Double Cheeseburger, or my favorite Texas Double Jack. Just open
So was it one of the cars that's inside the stadium?
Keep an eye out for the Greater El Paso Football Showcase Top 5 players, the draft watch list, and exciting announcements for all of the events this season to include the All-Star Games Draft, Combine, Mentor Program, Quarterback Challenge, Golf Tournament, and scholarship announcements. Follow the Greater El Paso Football Showcase.
Either one? So even if the mic's off, they'll... Okay. All right, guys. This is Miner Talk. We're on a break right now. We're on live radio. We'll come back in about 1 minute. But... listen, we have the chat going on YouTube, but feel free to give us a ring, 915-505-6009. Once again, 915-505-6009. Hit us up, man. Let us know what you think. Win or lose, we do this all the time, all right? Cool. Yeah.
So should I put a song after the joiner? It's like RJ, Canty, and Michelle. Should I put like a song? Because he's not here.
Yeah. Can you load up Rich Homie Quan or Mac Miller?
From the YouTube?
Yeah.
I'm going to try.
All right, cool. He was like, what song should I put? I'm like, Rich Homie Quan or Mac Miller.
Nice. All right, we're back here on Miner Talk as we continue. 915-505-6009 as we continue here on the program. 600 ESPN El Paso on Twitter and X. And 600ESPNElPaso.com. We're brought to you by Jack in the Box. By the way, The only place that's going to be open right now is Jack in the Box. Open 24/7, 365 here in El Paso and Las Cruces. 15 locations, by the way. Jack in the Box is the perfect spot before and after every game. And hey, big shout out to Jack in the Box, who brings us here, who is our sponsor here on MinerTalk. Let's go back to the phone lines here. We'll read some comments on YouTube, and we'll go back to Twitter and X here as well. Big shout out to Chris from Inspo Lens. We are live here on YouTube, live on Twitter and X. We are live on 600 ESPN El Paso, and we've got our podcast as afterward, recapping everything as well. Back to the phone lines, Sebastian Perez Navarro joining us next. Sebastian, your thoughts on this one right here, the Miners falling in a heartbreaking fashion to Southern Utah.
Disappointing loss. Frankly, say what you will about the Thunderbirds, they're an FCS team. Good schools and good universities don't lose to FCS teams. And this was Walden's chance to prove something to Utep. Obviously, you have yesterday's comments that resurfaced on Utah. And in my personal belief, I thought it was going to be pure destruction on Utep's end. It wasn't. It was honestly the exact opposite once we got into the second half. It looked like Utep just wasn't in the groove. Disappointing, the best word to say it. The way I feel, the way every single member of my family in the car right now feels.
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying there, Sebastian. Give me your thoughts on just the crowd tonight. What was the atmosphere like in the environment at the Sun Bowl?
It was amazing being out there on the field, being able to report to the prospector. No fan was quiet. We had two sections of fans getting into a battle over Utep cheers. Something that was very, I think, is going to grow in Utep culture was they were playing Kurt Angle's WWE song. And the catchphrase is, "You suck." But instead of saying that, the Utep Miner people were saying, Utep. They were making it their own song. Everyone was adrenaline pumping. Type was the word to say it. Every person that I was able to interview, that I was able to talk to, graduates, current students, future students, they were all hopeful about what Scotty Walden would bring. There was one interview that spoke truth. We have to wait to Scotty Walden being able to diffuse into the system, being able to have more time in the system. We can't expect large results now. And even if it's disappointing, that statement holds a lot of validity. But there was a lot of hype, a lot of adrenaline, and a lot of high hopes.
Yeah, I hear you, man. Where does UTEP go from here? As you're probably going to put something together for the Prospector as a recap for this one right here. By the way, Prospector is Sayer of the student newspaper out at UTEP right now. You give us your thoughts, Sebastian, on the future here for the Miners.
Well, absolutely. From here, they go on to play Liberty, the Conference CUSA champion. If you want to catch a little summary, an article should be out by the beginning of this week on theprospector.com. Check out Instagram, socials, as well as a little video package to trickle in. But frankly, and Scotty Walden said it, they have to regroup. They have to check the film. But now you find the balance between checking the film, being critical, whilst also trying to keep up momentum and high adrenaline. UTEP was defeated. That was the case. They need to get out of the bad rhythm that they're in and try to go play Liberty the best that they can. It's an away game and to get it together. They need to regroup and avoid the mistakes. Avoid the penalties. As you said earlier, Adrian, 12 penalties, that's unacceptable.
I hear you, man. Hey, I appreciate the phone call, Sebastian. Thank you for tuning in and calling in so late here into the wee mornings on MinerTalk. Appreciate Sebastian Perez Navarro there on the program. 14 penalties tonight for UTEP, Sal. The most since 2005. That's right, 2005. That was UTEP's first year in Conference USA, writes some guy, Chris. And as he writes, atrocious. I would agree with that.
And the sad part is that Southern Utah had a large number of penalties as well, but you can't even take advantage of that because they offset. You do one, they do one, it matches, but you have more than they do at the end of the day. And the attention to detail that's been discussed, or the I don't want to say bragging about it, that's not right, but the large mentioning of the attention to detail and preparation, kind of makes you feel disappointed if that was the case because it didn't show up tonight. I know that there were some last week against Nebraska. It's in Nebraska. It's at Nebraska, however you want to put it. that's a big power school, so I can understand those, but I can't understand it when you have the clear home advantage tonight, a large number of people out there in support of you, and you basically blow all your chances away because of those penalties. So lack of blocking, lack of shedding blocks and getting to the quarterback, which they did not do a great job of when it comes to a quarterback containment.
Yes.
All of that is a recipe for disaster, and it's just a lot of undiscipline when there's been a lot of talk of attention to detail and preparation. They have to fix that up. Otherwise, it doesn't matter who they play. They're going to lose every single game if you have another game like you did today.
You know, if you're starting a new program and building something new, I understand getting, the false start penalties at times. I get it, but the ones that I hate are the roughing the passer, the unsportsmanlike conduct penalties, all of those. The penalties that are all the unsportsmanlike conducts. There were 1, 2, 3, 4 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties among those right there. And for the Miners, totaling 14 penalties, 122 yards here as it wraps up here tonight. Southern Utah defeats Utep 27-24 in overtime. We're continuing on MinerTalk, 915-505-6009. If you're listening to us and you've been wanting to chime in but you can't get into the program because we are busy, chime in now, 915-505-6009. We've been able to clear some phone lines, and we can definitely take your call right now if you've got some thoughts on this game. We'll also go to our YouTube comments here in just a moment, but before we do that, let's go to Brian. He is next up on the phone lines. Brian, good evening. What's going on?
What's up, Adrian? I just got back from my homecoming dance, and seeing the Utep game was very disappointing on ESPN Plus.
Oh, yes, it is. You said you got done with your homecoming dance? What are we talking about here, Brian? Tell me a little bit more about this Utep game and less about the homecoming dance.
I'm sorry, bro. I just had to mention it because it was very important to the context of it and all that.
All right. So you're at homecoming. I guess you're in high school, obviously, and you're watching the Utep. You're a senior, and you're watching the Utep game on ESPN Plus. Give me your thoughts, because your night must have been ruined. And if it wasn't your date, not necessarily at homecoming ruining the night, it was Utep ruining the night for you.
Oh, you bet it was Utep ruining the night, because I'm a special teams nerd, and seeing the punching and kicking situation infuriated me.
Okay, why?
For starters, we'll start off with Paso. Even though he didn't make that 43-yard field goal earlier in the game, the wide left attempts at the end of the game really pissed me off. So he did shoot themselves in the foot there, but it ended up not mattering because Paso was sold. And this thing's on scholarship after all.
Yeah, I hear you, man. Any other thoughts before we let you go, my friend?
It's just, we really need to be careful. I think this is maybe a wake-up call to do better at Liberty, but I just really hope that Walden is a guy that isn't just all the hype. Because if he...
Okay, man, I appreciate it. Thank you for calling in. Brian, here on the phone lines as we continue. I had some interesting calls here tonight, but I appreciate everybody chiming in. Our telephone number, 915-505-6009. Whew, we got some time to breathe, guys. All right, we burned through a lot of calls. Now we've got to burn through a lot of comments that have come in on Twitter and X and on YouTube. Sal, you want to start us off here on some of the YouTube comments that you're seeing come your way that we haven't read so far?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember where Alberto left off, but let's see here. Okay, I know where we left off. It was the Austin P. Miner comment. So going after that, Raul Marioni Jr. says, "Bruh, this coaching staff sucked. No adjustments, no discipline. This sucks." Chronolink says, "But hey, we have kick-ass locker rooms. Hype." That's a good
I like
one.
it. I like it.
He also does another one right after that. "I'm cashing out after what I saw today. There's no way we can win more than 2 games this year." Ooh, what do you think?
Oh,
did you guys do a run through already?
No, we haven't.
That's
my
right, we're
gosh!
waiting for Zay,
You were waiting on Zay to do a little bit of a roadmap to where this could go if this goes sour or goes wrong. But I'll just say this: the next 2 games, if you're a UTEP fan, temper your expectations. It's Liberty on the road next week, and then it's Colorado State on the road. You're not going to find out who this UTEP team is until October 3rd. That's a Thursday night game, and that's against Sam Houston. And if everybody writes off UTEP in the next 2 weeks against Liberty and Colorado State, I find that unfair. I feel like, what you saw tonight, write them off or think of them differently, sure, go ahead. But next week and the week after, your expectations should be low when it comes to those two games.
I understand that, but it's a lot harder to accept more patience, so to speak, when you could have had a good result today or a good sample size.
Good point.
And say, hey, we got to wait more, because by that theory, hey, let's say they do take on Sam Houston State and they lose that one. Okay, then when can the accurate type of prediction, I guess, if you want to put it that way, be given? So it's very disappointing in that regard. I can understand if somebody's checking out. I'm not out yet, but I wouldn't argue with somebody who is out, because this loss today is unacceptable, man. The biggest game, in my opinion, of Coach Walden's career. We talked about this on the pregame that we had on Spaces earlier. This was definitely a must-win, and they didn't do it.
They didn't do it at all. No, you're exactly right. Alberto, your thoughts. You just chime in. You've heard a lot of calls come in on all this right here. Your thoughts on everything that people are talking about right now.
I feel the same disappointment in the team. It was a horrible outing, and it just kind of gave you flashbacks to things that you didn't want to get flashbacks anymore. It's just a game of two halves. I think that the Miners came out firing, and everything that they did on offense that worked for them, they immediately abandoned or didn't do again, and then they stopped scoring points. They scored essentially all their points in the first half of this game, and so to me that's really indicative of what happened is you stop doing the things that were successful for you, and you go dry. You can't score anymore. The other side is they're just running the ball down your neck, and you can't stop them. You can't stop them. They're marching on you, and you can't stop them, and that's what was disappointing. I'm glad it was a close game. It could have gone the other way, but it's understandably. I understand the frustration from the fans, and we highlighted the importance of the Southern Utah. Sure beat this team, or they'll for sure beat that team when you have a loss like this at home.
No game is going to be a guarantee moving forward, right? I mean, now all bets are off for UTEP moving forward as far as counting on them to have a win. In a certain week or a certain game. They've got to prove it to fans. They've got to show fans that they're really going to be committed to turning things around here early on.